You're ready to be premature all over again.
Wow, that's impressive.
Quick
bro.
reset.
Yeah.
Quick reset.
Last night was Ramos Jizz.
Freudian slip. Who knew the job was pro bono?
I was so high that I shit myself at some point.
Okay, get still here. Somebody, everybody mute. Goddamn you.
My SEAL Team 6 with the SEAL Team 12.
There's nothing wrong with punching above your weight.
I thought you'd get better.
Well,
I don't know what's worse. You're a ginger or you've been vaccinated.
You sit around and drink and solve the world's problems, right?
Hey, let's go ahead and unwrap this present and let the debate begin.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As always, it's a new week, new topic. The Cuatro Horsemen are in the house, and we are getting ready to get started. Obviously, before we begin, let me go ahead and do as I always do. Gentlemen, start your engines. I like it. There we go. Yeah, so let's go ahead and move into our drinks. See what everybody's drinking today.
Oh, you
why am I getting the nod?
Play
the nod here?
along. Play
You
along.
just get the wave on from a guy with a
You
hook.
just love to be a troublemaker, dude. Just love it. Like
Look, I had to listen to a ration of you're an abuser, we're in an abusive relationship, all that shit. So I might
Really
as well just
speak the
lean
truth.
into it
and this here is
Yes.
further proof.
and just own it. That's right. How's everybody doing today? Horror? What?
Horror.
I mean, that's an
fucking
interesting
do
way
it.
to start. If that's how you're doing, fantastic. I did catch that. That was pretty good. If our listeners didn't, they're about to find out. So let's go ahead and jump into our drinks. I was going to start with him and then he walks away. What the fuck?
And you act surprised.
I know. You know what? Then I'm going to start. I'm going to go
He's
with me first.
abusing you.
He is. I'm going to go with me first. I wanted to try something different. I was going to do a bourbon-based drink, and I thought, what's something interesting and different that I have not tried before? And I managed to find this one. And at first, I was like, I'm not so sure about this, but I'll give it a shot. So I'm going to show it to you. I know our viewers at home can't see it. It is a tall glass of sperm. No,
I was going to say that was exactly
That does
where I
not
was
look
going.
appetizing at
No.
all.
it is called.
That's impressive, by the way.
It is. It is a
how
tall.
long did
Somebody-
that-
Holland.
how long did
Somebody's
that
been
take you?
busy today.
Took me
Tastes like
all
pineapple.
weekend. Took me all
No
weekend.
wonder we weren't getting responses in the text
That's it.
chat.
This is what I'm drinking, and it is called a bourbon milk punch. And when I read the name, I was like, what? I'm like, okay, let me check that out. So it is 2 ounces of the bourbon of your choice. I did, as I always do as a bougie individual, and used my Eagle Rare. And so it is 2 ounces of bourbon, Eagle Rare for me. It is a 3/4 of an ounce of cream de cacao. What? Cream de cacao. Cream de cacao. It is a splash of vanilla extract, and the vanilla extract I used was one that my daughter has, and it is basically Jack Daniels with about a dozen sticks of Tahitian vanilla in it. So turned it into vanilla extract. So yet another
cool.
level of alcohol. A 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and then 4 ounces of milk. And then you shake that up over ice. And then on the top, I know you can't see it, but on the top up here, the little dirt up there, that's actually topped with
that-
nutmeg.
That's not Ramos's jizz.
It's not Ramos jizz.
That's a shame.
Tasty. That's actually
hope you're
pretty
not-
good.
I hope you're not
Actually-
lactose intolerant.
Yeah, if you are, then don't fucking drink it.
Yeah.
Be like
But-
me earlier this
Legal
week.
says.
yeah, so it's called the Bourbon Milk Punch. I found it in my handy dandy bar book. I was like, that is an interesting one. I'm going to give it a shot and see. Obviously, you do things like White Russian, right? So you do things with cream. But I was like, I'm just going to give this a shot. I've never done bourbon and milk. So what the hell? So it's actually not bad. So that's what I'm doing is a bourbon milk punch. All right, Grinch, I was going to go with you, but you stepped away briefly. So now we're going to
I'm ready.
cycle to you.
I'm ready,
What's-
Coach.
What
I'm
are
ready.
you drinking today?
This is the painkiller.
Did anybody catch that? Because I fucking didn't.
Come on,
I did.
Judas Priest.
It's the painkiller.
Painkiller.
I
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
The note you hit, my ears bled slightly, so I didn't actually catch it. I apologize.
You can't half step on Rob Hofford. You gotta go all in.
Got to lean in.
All in. Yep.
Except you're not in leather and studs and spikes and
That's why I got to bring the voice because I left all the other shit. So maybe I didn't go all in. But anyway,
you need to look like Blue Oyster Cult and sing like Rob Halford. You'll have it made.
Yes.
All right. So the painkiller.
yes,
You've done this
painkiller.
before. You've done this before.
We've on the show. Yeah.
Yes,
But
you have.
yeah, I mean,
You specifically
pineapple
have done it.
juice, cream of coconut, rum, orange juice, and also a dash of nutmeg.
Nice. All right. Little nut in your drink.
Mhm.
It adds a little something.
It does.
The Pierre de Resistance.
Mhm.
All right. So the painkiller for you, the bourbon milk punch for me. Mac, brother, what are you drinking today?
Yes, I think again, kind of like Grinch. This is one that I've done before, if I recall correctly, on the
Margarita.
show. It was it's a Tropic Heat Martini.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's one that we've had at Bonefish Grill. You have one near you, but it's pineapple vodka, a little mango habanero syrup, and
Yes.
lime
This is when you
syrup.
made your homemade.
I made the homemade. Now this time
Yes.
I'm using the syrups that I purchased that they recommended that they use actually at the restaurant because it makes it a lot simpler.
Okay. So you've had it both ways now. Homemade.
I'm not sure how to answer that question.
You've made it with your own habanero syrup, and now
Yes,
you're using a store
I have
bought
specifically had the drink both ways.
both ways.
before.
Which is
Let's
better?
be very clear here.
Okay. Which is better? Which version?
I think in this case with the syrup.
Really? The store bought?
Yeah.
The way they recommend
store
it.
bought syrup. Yeah.
Okay. Where'd you get the
Now
recipe?
that could be. I found it online. There's actually a website that lists out on flashcards a bunch of different recipes. So I guess
restaurants?
it's kind of a breakdown of what you learn as a Bonefish bartender. And they quiz you, I guess. So they had flashcards online. I found.
So this
with the
is their
recipe.
drink. It's not like you went into their establishment and asked to them to make something.
No. This was one that was on their recipe. Other people have slight variations of it. I've found.
Gotcha.
The recipes are all just a little bit different, but I've gone with this one, and yeah, it's now it very well could have been that was early on in simple syrup making days that I did not make the syrups to the best of my ability, and maybe that's why I think this is better.
But now you're a trained killer. You're a professional.
I got a lot of syrup to use up, so
Might as
I'll
well
probably
do
be
it.
using the syrup for a while.
There you go. All right. Tropic Thunder. I like it. No, Tropic Heat.
No. Yeah,
Tropic Heat.
it's not Danny McBride. It's
Made with booty sweat.
it's Big
That's
Mac
it.
here with the Tropic Heat.
That's it. All right, Haas, finish this out, brother. We know you've been out. You've pre-gamed. You're at home now. You're drinking. It's late in the day. What are you bringing to the show today?
I went with a new thing from the
New.
Cock and Flow app. Yes.
Oh, shit.
Yes,
Grinch,
yes.
there you go. He's using the Cock and Balls app.
That's right. We found another one. This one's called a treacle.
Nice.
A what?
A treacle. Treacle. Treacle.
Treacle.
Treacle?
Is that
Treacle.
like a tree's
No,
testicle?
that sounds too much like fecal. So we're going to go with treacle.
You do you, man.
Thank you.
Sure, but go ahead. What are you drinking? What's in the treacle?
It's a treacle. And it's got dark rum, simple syrup, apple juice, and Angostura bitters.
Okay. The treacle.
Treacle. Smells good.
Is there any treacle matter floating in
I was
top of
about
it?
to say it's funny that he immediately went to sounds too
God
much like
damn it,
fecal.
I was hoping you weren't going to make that connection either. Damn it.
treacle matter. Got it.
Again, as we've said, after 30 years, this is on you at this
That's
point.
right. That's right. You just have to accept
You keep
responsibility.
coming back for the abuse.
All right. Well, that's true.
And you guys will be proud. I did make extra, so
Nice.
I will continue to refill my cup till it's
Until it
gone.
runneth over.
That's it. That's it. All right, gentlemen. The treacle matter, the Tropic Thunder, the what? I'm sorry, the painkiller.
I like it. I like,
Yes.
Eat
And
these
then-
nuts.
my bourbon milk punch, gentlemen. To the Quattro Horsemen, I say cheers to you.
Cheers.
Cuatro Jinetes.
That's right, Cuatro Jinetes. All right, let's get this show on the road. Let's get to work. All right, so our episode today is going to be an interesting one. Look, we've covered a lot of things on this show, and we talk about this all the time. No topic is off the table for us, and when it comes to sports, we've talked about collegiate football, collegiate athletes. We've talked about the NFL. We've talked about sports athletes retiring. We've talked about racism in sports. We've talked about a lot of things when it comes to sports. International football. Hosh, you and I did the Euro coverage a while ago. This is one, interestingly enough, that this is a sport we haven't talked about, to my knowledge. And we may have mentioned an athlete here and there, but this sport we haven't talked about. And obviously, with recent events in the last month or so, I thought this was a good time to go ahead and do this. And of course, Mac, being Mac, was like, we're talking about this. We're talking about this, sending out stuff, just spamming us constantly. And so it's like, you know what? The man's bringing his A game.
Submission.
Right. The man's bringing his A game. How can we deny him his topic?
At no point have I ever brought my A game. Let's just be clear about that.
Whoa.
Okay.
Don't do that. So we're going to talk about golf. We all enjoy golf on some level. Well, at least 3 of the 4 of us do. Me personally, look, I mean, I've played golf for a while now, and I think kind of my game being where it is, I tend to shoot on a par 72. I tend to shoot somewhere in the low 60s, and that tends to be where I'm at. And I know maybe.
And by low 60s, you mean the 160s, right?
No.
I shoot in the low 60s.
I've played golf with Thor, many times, and he does. He shoots in the low 60s on the front too.
Look,
on the front 9.
I've had a couple of games. I've had a couple of games where suffice to say, I'm not afraid to toot my own horn. I've shot like 18, 20 under. I mean, it's happened. Mac, you've seen it. Haas, I know you've seen it.
You must be talking about the video
cards.
game version.
What was that? Was that not what we were talking about? Were we talking about real golf?
Yeah.
Shit. Well, look, if we're talking about real golf, I apologize. Legal says I have to be more specific. I apologize. In real golf, I'm just a hair off that. I shoot about 105. So real close.
That's a big hair.
105. So, so we're going to talk about golf.
I don't even know what any of those numbers mean.
That's okay. That's why I said 3 of the 4 of us. 3 of the 4 of us. But what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk. I don't even know how you say it. Is it live golf, live golf, 54 golf?
I got to see it in writing, but I think it's
is it regulate
golf
or relegate? I have to actually see it written out.
Yeah, it's live golf.
Live golf, but technically it's the Roman numeral 54 because the competition is a 54-hole competition.
As opposed to a standard 72 rounds, I think, for the PGA.
Hole. Right. So it is a 54-hole competition, 3 days, 3 days of 18 holes. And that's where they get the name LIV, the Roman numeral 54. There is a lot of controversy surrounding this, both locally, nationally, and abroad, internationally, because of all the things surrounding this. So that's what we wanted to talk about. Like I said, Mac brought his A game. He's done his due diligence. He's done his homework. And we thought he's bringing this topic to the table. We're not going to deny the man his platform. So that's what we're talking about. Mac, I'm going to let you start because you are clearly the most knowledgeable. And if you would just explain to me, because I know you've done this in the past, what is kind of live golf, right? Just give us a brief synopsis. What is it? What's the format?
It's golf.
Oh God!
I mean,
man,
at the end of the day, right? I'm gonna shorten it up for you here, right? It's a completely new golf. I guess I don't want to call it a tournament, right? Because it's not really a tournament and it's not an association, but fuck, they don't even call it leagues. I don't know what you would call it, but
it's a series of events, 8 events technically.
Yeah,
organization
across. I guess we'll go with the organization.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go with that. That was founded and kind of started and chaired by Greg Norman, former world number 1. Most people know the name for sure. I don't know how many tournaments he's won over the years, majors and stuff, but it's a large number. So I mean, well respected in the profession, but he has kind of been the CEO of Live Golf to kind of get it off the ground. And interestingly enough, this is something that he's been talking about. Maybe not Live Golf specifically, but kind of starting a competitor to the PGA for probably 30 years now, from what I found. So this is not necessarily something new that he just kind of brought to the table. So he's kind of, he kind of got this up. It's going to be a 48-man
field
every week. Like you said, 8 weeks, 8 tournaments, no cuts. And then, as we all know, I think golf is typically an individual sport, right? You you play as an individual, but they also have teams. So they have the team concept in LIV Golf.
How were the teams chosen? Do you know?
So they had captains, and they actually had a draft party.
Okay.
And the captains, and it brings up a great, kind of we were talking about earlier, right? Most of this is broadcast over YouTube right now, or the LIV Golf website. There's no
affiliation with any
affiliation with any of the
station,
networks
any TV
or
stations,
ESPN or anything like that, right? So it seems like it's going to be a very social media aspect to it.
Driven, right?
And they covered the draft party where they drafted the different teams, and now I guess they can bring in some additional players outside of. I guess they're looking to expand that 48-man field potentially, because I know they announced over the weekend they had the inaugural tournament at Centurion Golf Course in London, and they announced a couple of additional people that would be joining the tour for the next round in Portland at the end of June.
Right.
So
real quick,
that's kind of the it's an, I guess, kind of a startup league to compete with the more well-established PGA Tour.
Yeah, but what's interesting is you say startup, and it's funny because you've got some of golf's biggest names.
Well, and that's a great thing, and I'd like to talk about that, right? Thor mentioned it. I did watch. I didn't watch all of it, but I did watch some of the golf this weekend. And you have some big names, but on the flip side, you have some names that some of those names maybe haven't really been winning a lot lately. So maybe they see this.
That was tactfully put.
Legal says I have to tread lightly there, right?
Yeah.
Well, look, and I was reading an article before this, before we started here. Apparently, Gary Player came out. Again, another gentleman that's played golf for a long time. He's in his 80s now. Won a lot of majors, for those of you that don't know. But he came out and basically said, look, I have no problem with what these guys are doing. This is a money grab for them. Some of these guys aren't winning on the current PGA Tour. They're kind of just a little bit past the prime. So they see this as an opportunity. They've got family, kids, wives.
Yeah, but what about
I don't have to work. What's that?
Like Bryson DeChambeau and who's the kid from South Carolina whose name's eluding me at the moment? Jordan. No, Spieth?
No, he's not.
He's not on the tour.
Jordan Spieth. Oh my God, why can't I think of his name?
Well, while he's thinking of that,
Bubba Daly, John Watson,
John Holmes. What?
Look, real quick in terms of the format versus the PGA. Another thing that
Dustin Johnson.
DJ.
Johnson,
Yeah. He's on. I think the thing that's interesting about the format is in a PGA tournament or PGA sanctioned event, it is roughly 100 players start on Thursday. They shoot 18 holes Thursday and Friday to set the field for the weekend. And they reduce that based on the number of strokes or whatever to a field of about 48. Yeah, 48 to 54, depending. And those members play through the weekend. So if you roll into a PGA event, one of the 100, you're going, okay, the purse is X amount of dollars, but the only way for me to earn anything is to get to Saturday. Right. But what Mac is saying is because they are starting with 48 members, no cuts, you're going to earn money regardless of where you start or finish the weekend. You're earning something, right? There's no question about, am I going to earn anything this weekend? You're going to earn something. Now, how much or how little depends on obviously your play. But when you start the weekend, you're earning money.
And right there's probably the first thing, because there's a lot to unpack about this whole this whole experience. But we can start right there at the very top with probably what is many people consider the most controversial thing, right? Is yes, there's a lot of money involved in this, right? These guys, and I'm not saying I blame them, because I would do the same damn thing. They're in it for the money, right? There's no doubt about it, right? Maybe there's something of the we got to be on the ground of a new startup, and part of that. But at the end of the day, it's all about the money, and that money is coming from somebody keep me honest here.
It's a Saudi Arabian
investment, and it's the private or public investment fund, something along those lines,
something like that.
And so that is where one of the major controversies comes from is that it is being funded primarily by, Saudi Arabia, who has a less than stellar human rights records over the years.
Tactfully
and
put.
that's and that's been called into question since this entire thing started. But real quick, I don't want to get too far in before we finish this, just so people understand the correlation. So if you are one of the 48 members, Max said there's a draft. There are 12 captains because there are 12 teams. Each week they will be drafting their team. So it's much like fantasy football, right?
Okay.
Every week, you do a draft and then each week you can swap out players. But here they will be drafting week to week. And so you'll be playing with different people every week, depending on how the draft goes. And so the teams will get set each week for each of the events. You're not drafting at the beginning and then playing with the same people through all 8 events.
Now, I find that interesting, though, because I know at the end of the season, the winning team gets a percentage of the purse. It's a pretty substantial amount of money. So that's interesting, though. It's not going to be the same team then.
Yeah.
Same team across the entire
the entire event.
8 rounds.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's just
events.
the format they have. I think one of the interesting things is it is 54 holes, and to reduce the amount of time in playing, they are doing a shotgun start.
So everybody's on the course.
Starts on a different tee, and then they just start playing. So I think that's an interesting kind of division away from what the PGA Tour does, because obviously we know the PGA, everyone starts on T1 and you go through all 18, and it makes for an all-day event getting all those players through. We're here, everybody's starting at the same time, and you're just playing whatever hole you're on, and you go through your 18 and then you're done.
Well, and I think, kind of the advantage to that is that you're playing in real time, right? So what you've got to be doing, as opposed to, I may be teeing off last, but somebody ahead of me had like a spectacular day, and I know there's nothing I can do to catch them now, right?
Right.
So you have to be a lot more aware of how everybody's playing it, currently, which is a bit of a different
beast
format than what you see in the PGA.
Right. Because we've seen teams in any sport, right? When it's something like that, a team plays, they do a certain way, and somebody playing later in the day goes, well, I already know what I have to do because I know what that team's done because I'm competing, right? Here, everybody's playing at the same time. So you really have to be cognizant of how everyone's playing if you want to finish high. Now, I do want to say I sent out a text this week, and I want to apologize to you guys. I didn't misspeak as much as I misrepresented the article I read. The payouts for this tournament are for individual winners. It's a $20 million purse. Now, the article I saw said the individual winner receives $20 million. That is actually not accurate. It's a $20 million purse that gets spread over all of the winners.
When I first saw that, I was like, holy shit, I guess
That's what I was like. That's what I was like, oh, fuck, man. So Charles Schwartzel won the inaugural event at Centurion and won $4 million.
Yeah, $4 million. So Grinch, this is where you can still say,
holy
I still get
shit.
it.
So,
right?
so
I
yeah.
mean, it's...
But when you think about it,
Yeah.
the largest payout in the PGA is the Players Championship. That was a $3.6 million payout, but that was 4 days worth of work. This is 3. So you're reducing it by 1 day. The purse is greater. Never mind the fact that his team also won, and there's a $5 million purse split between the top 3 teams. The top team makes $3 million. Second place team, $1.5 million. The third team gets $500,000. So he actually made $4,750,000 for 3 days worth of work, which is the largest payout in any PGA tournament. I mean, that's the largest in golf.
in any golf
ever.
tournament.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yes,
I mean,
to
the
say it's a
women's
money grab. Absolutely.
PGA was here recently. I think the total purse was $5 million
For every
So
player.
The winner won like 2 something. I think
Right.
second place won 1 million, and then it just and then it kind of rapidly drops from there.
Right. So that's kind of the format, kind of the purse situation, and that's going to be the case. So let's talk about the 2 major controversies that surround LIV, Live, 54, whatever the name is. I don't fucking know. The 2 major controversies, the first being, as Mac mentioned, this entire endeavor is being backed by a Saudi Arabian investment fund that apparently has ties to some groups in Saudi that committed some massive atrocities as recently as March. The execution of 81 members, 81 individuals back in March. There's that issue. The second issue is something obviously from a national local perspective is that the PGA does not allow its members, any card carrying member of the PGA is not allowed to play in a non-sanctioned event. And LIV Golf qualifies as a non-sanctioned event. So you had a number of players wanting to play, but the PGA said no. So what did they do? They played anyway. Or in the case of DJ, Dustin Johnson, he resigned his membership to the PGA in favor of playing.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that everybody that played, obviously, like you said, DJ resigned.
I think
everybody else got booted. They are no longer a member of the PGA. They cannot play in any of those events. And it's interesting to see because you have somebody like Phil Mickelson, who was a lifetime member of the PGA for, his contributions to all of his winnings. And it's like, well, if you're a lifetime member, how can you boot them? How can you rescind that? I mean, obviously you can do whatever you want to do. It's your tournament, it's your association, but
clearly
I just feel like it was very petty.
Well, yeah, you mean from the PGA? From the PGA's perspective, you're saying it's petty.
Yes, I think so. Okay. Right.
What drove this? Was it just a desire to change the game? Were they frustrated with the format of the PGA?
I mean, I think the impression that I got from some of the articles I read from Greg Norman was that it was the driving factor was, yes, to create another opportunity for these guys to have somewhere else to go and play and have big money. So basically create, as he said it, free agency in golf, right? They can now leverage their skills just like any other sport to go and, get paid more.
Or any other career, right? You have options to be able to go somewhere else. It created a free market, right? Because before this, the PGA was the only place to go.
Yeah, right. I mean, you had,
if you didn't like their rules and regulations, if you didn't like their payouts, scales, too bad. You have no recourse.
Right. And Mac, I think you said something earlier this week, or maybe it was you. You said something about technically they're contract employees, right? For the PGA.
They're independent contractors.
Thank you.
Is what the PGA classifies them as. They're not employees of the PGA. So, my thought process behind that is if you're an independent contractor,
you can do whatever the hell you want.
You have the ability. Well, and I think
you don't have a contract as long as the contract doesn't state that there's a non-compete clause.
Well, and I think that's the sticking point here, right? Is that the PGA has something in there that says you cannot play in any other non-sanctioned events. And so that's kind of the footing that they have for this. Now, I think you'll see some lawsuits kind of come out of this. Because I think some guys have, the ability to come back and say, well, I earned the right to play at these play at the Masters, every year.
Right, because those rules, because I win so many tournaments, right? You get either a 5 or 10 year window in some cases. In some of these tournaments, you get a lifetime exemption. Yeah,
right. And the interesting part is the PGA, which is of course governed by the USGA here in America, that sets all the rules and guidelines as the governing body to make sure that there is continuity and legitimacy to the PGA Tour. I mean, there are a number of factors related to how the PGA Tours run and the different tours that are sanctioned from the PGA Tour, the European Tour, the LPGA, the Tour of Champions, and so forth. And that's why they're saying this steps outside of that because it is not sanctioned by the PGA and because the current players are card-carrying members of the PGA and their rules and guidelines state you cannot participate in a tour not sanctioned by the PGA if you are a member, is what has caused a lot of that local controversy where players are like, yeah, but I want to go and I want to make more money. And I don't know if you guys saw, the PGA actually just upped their purse. I think they're adding another $3 million to events to kind of up the total purse that gets spread out over all of the members, because I think they're trying to find a way to compete with people not jumping ship to go to this other series of events. And they're just like, the Masters, I think the Masters was like 1.8 million, was the winner won 1.8 million at the Masters. And we think of the Masters, the British Open, the US Open, like the 4 major opens, those majors as kind of the pinnacle events in the PGA, but those payouts are nowhere near what LIV Golf is willing to pay out.
Well, and I think you have to kind of pull the majors out of it a little bit, right? Because there's some prestige to the majors.
Right.
Those guys, I mean, they're not turning the money down, but they're playing those games, those tournaments to win. It's, the February weekend event for the crypto.com currency.
What about a Ryder Cup? Are they allowed to compete?
They are not allowed to play in the Ryder Cup.
They cannot.
Wow.
And I think it was, I saw an article, Kevin Na came out, who was a member of the PGA, and he has jumped ship to LIV. And he was like, I'm absolutely sure they'll let me play in the Ryder Cup. Well, apparently now the PGA is saying, because of that, we're banning all 17 players that took part in this. You are now banned. You can participate in no function, no tournament, anything related to PGA tours.
Wow. So the PGA's really got their undies in a twist, huh?
They have
in a
clamped
bunch.
down. Yeah.
No, because if you're the PGA, you're looking at this going, we can't afford to
for a whole bunch of more people to jump ship.
Right?
Well, no, we can't afford to pay these guys what they're going to get over here. And
hold on.
Now they're going to be.
Is that necessarily a true statement? I mean, is that maybe part of the reason why Norman
we're not going to
okay.
try and afford?
Right.
Okay.
Now it sounds like that may be changing. Now they may see the writing on the wall. To Thor's point, and they're offering up some more money, but I mean, they see these guys leaving, and again, it's not only the money. Now you're talking about you've got to work 8 weeks a year, as opposed to I think 32. I think there's like 32 PGA Tour events.
Yeah,
every
starts
year.
in November.
Now,
or
obviously,
something
they
like
don't
that,
play
goes
every
to
one
October.
of them, but
right. But if you want to
maximize
maximize your earning potential, you play in every tournament every weekend because they are every week.
And maybe one aspect of this is, as somebody who lives in an area that's obviously very golf heavy, or the home of American golf as it calls itself. There's no shortage of beautiful courses across the country and the world, and they all jockey for maybe one bite at the apple like every 4 years, as opposed to you could probably create a lot more economic activity by having that frequency tuned up a little bit. And it just, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm maybe starting to get it a little bit because PGA or the golf community has a tendency to insulate itself, even though they know they need the lifeblood is you got to keep bringing in people, and then those TV contracts and sponsors, I'm sure, are how they're paying for most of this. I have no sense of, is golf viewership declining, increasing? I think know.
Yeah, I think it was declining. I think COVID may have helped with the interest in golf because it was one of the things that you could still go out and do, right? It was outdoors. You could easily separate. So from a playing standpoint for the general public, I think golf went up, but I think golf viewership was on a decline for many years. So I'm sure that, and if I'm looking at this from, Liv's perspective, I'm looking at, okay, look, let's be honest, right? Typically golf was old white dudes, right? Let's be honest, right? You had a younger crowd get energized when you had the likes of like Tiger Woods, Sergio Garcia, some of the names that we remember when it kind of hit its pinnacle, but then it started to dip off again. So how do you, if you're LIV Golf, they're looking at it like, okay, how do we tap into that younger crowd? Because you're right, you have to start bringing in, the next wave of people that are going to play your sport. And it looks like they're doing it through, like I said, through social media. You've got to watch the matches on, YouTube. They're doing, interviews on YouTube and posting them there. A lot of stuff on Instagram.
So it sounds like
a lot of fanfare. There were concerts every night after the tournament was done.
So in other words, the PGA just seemed to be relying on and resting on their laurels.
Yeah, they were a little stagnant.
And not evolve and growing. And so now we have this other organization that's trying to evolve and take golf to the next level and be creative.
It's the XFL of golf, right?
Yeah,
to some extent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, Haas. I mean, I'll admit I don't watch it. I mean, I'm pretty indifferent, and even though it's on damn near every TV in this area,
where you're at, yeah,
it's just, I mean, there's no appeal necessarily to me, but I could see, it's kind of like why UFC was more interesting than boxing because it was more dynamic and energetic, and then even like car racing, they started evolving some of their like fantasy stuff and points and qualifying it just seems to be the way things are going. And if, back to the old white dude mentality of, the game's just the way it is. Like, I could see where some people probably were ready to rage against the machine. Now, am I thrilled that it happens to be Saudi Arabia? Well, I mean, they've got money to spare, so I guess I get it. It's just that's not a great look.
Well, and that'll bring us into two things. One, and Grinch, you may know the answer to this. I'm pretty sure we're, as far as countries go, the U.S. is an ally with Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
the way he did that.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it, right? I mean, I'm not saying that they necessarily should be or shouldn't be, but they are. So from that standpoint, it's kind of like, and I'm not, by any stretch of the imagination, justifying what they've done, right? It's been well documented, the atrocities that have happened there and probably will continue to happen there for a period of time. But it brings in the word that we got thrown around a lot this week and probably will continue to be thrown around, the sports washing, right?
Yes.
Where you have a country like this who involves himself into something to kind of cleanse their history to some extent. And they're not the first people to do this, right? I mean, it goes back, I think, from what I saw, you could go back to, I think it was the 1930s, when they held the Olympics in Germany. They were certainly trying to put a pretty face on things.
Putting lipstick on a pig. It's still a fucking pig.
Word.
Yes.
Well,
and Mac,
ironic to use that animal in this.
I kind of, I was going to let that one go, but fair enough.
Let me go back, Mac, to what you said, or not what you said, but what you were trying to say a while. It is the Public Investment Fund, PIF, which is the financial arm of the Saudi Arabian government, which means clearly the backing comes from the government. And it's interesting because, and I'll, go ahead and throw him out there, Phil Mickelson, which of course, obviously, you've already mentioned, an author who is writing his biography, Alan Shipnuck, came out and said that a quote from Phil was in reference to Saudi Arabian people, the government, they're scary motherfuckers to get involved with. Mickelson said, according to Shipnuck, we know they killed Washington Post reporter and U.S. resident Jamal Khashoggi and have a horrible record on human rights. They execute people for being gay. And knowing all this, why would I even consider it? Because it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reshape how the PGA Tour operates. And the quote goes into him talking about how the PGA is a dictatorship and that the tour commissioner, Jay Monahan, while comes across as a nice guy, is basically somebody who feels like they are in control of all the golfers and the golfers have no recourse. And it's why a number of golfers have decided to jump ship.
Who said that? Mickelson?
Mickelson. It was a quote by Mickelson. Now, he tried to walk it back. He wrote, apparently texted Shipnuck and was just like trying. And as Shipnuck says, he apparently was trying to rewrite history. After saying it to me, was like, oh, that was off the record. You took it out of context, so trying to walk those comments back, and then ultimately came out and apologized for those comments. But ultimately, Mickelson,
the damage has been done.
Yeah, obviously it's a huge name.
I don't think that's necessarily untrue that Mickelson believes that to be true. Is probably a lot of golfers believe that to be true. But something that I didn't know until recently, that Mickelson has apparently has, legal says I have to say, apparently has a somewhat of a massive gambling hobby.
Gambling debts that exceeded 40 million between 2010 and 2014.
It's pretty safe to say then the next person to join the tour will be John Daly. Is that where we're going with this? Wow,
man, that's a lot of long drives. I mean, drive for show.
Exactly.
Putt for dough. Yeah, I mean, but you wonder, I mean, would you see somebody like that, right? I mean, clearly, not doing anything on the PGA, but could be a bit of a money grab, and let's be honest, right? Phil Mickelson would wear me out on a golf course. But he's well past his
among some other places, big boy.
Yes, he would. No, I'd be his daddy. But yeah, clearly past
you'd be his
prime.
caddy.
I don't know where we're going now.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting.
And so you look at some of those guys, right? Dustin Johnson. They're big names, but they're big names that haven't been relevant in a while, right? So
yeah, but what about the guy who won the 2020 Bryson DeChambeau? I mean, that's a big name.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
The one
Dustin
recently,
Johnson,
right?
Sergio Garcia, Bryson DeChambeau, Ian Poulter, Lee Westwood. I mean, there are a lot of big names.
But
Phil
yeah, they're
Mickelson,
huge names, but guys that aren't winning
regularly,
on a regular basis,
right?
right?
But in the world rankings, the 20 that have jumped are in the top 100 in world rankings.
Right.
So I mean, that's a fair chunk in terms of, you know, and I think DJ is the highest ranked. I think he was world ranking number 15 at this
Well,
when this
anymore.
happened. Not anymore
because actually the LIV Golf Tournament or association, whatever we want to call them, organization, is not a part of the world rankings. So they will all lose their world rankings as well.
by dropping off the PGA.
By dropping off the PGA
Okay.
Tour. Now, LIV Golf is, lobbying to try and get to be part of the world rankings so that their events will be recognized. But at this point, that's not the case.
Right.
So, seems like a lot of this was kind of premature, maybe. It seems like maybe they should have formed an organization and had some more links and ties to the World Golf.
Yeah, but I don't think they were going to get those, right? I mean, until I think you just have to start playing.
And that's why they had to throw double the cash at these guys, right?
Exactly.
Because that's the only way you're going to get them to leave.
So what you're saying is your thought is LIV should have worked with the PGA to be what PGA
well, I don't understand the
sanctioned
PGA,
events?
but maybe the rest of the
Golf
world
Association.
the World Golf Association, the rest of the
Association,
world to get some kind of foundation and grounding, so that you have some kind of legitimate argument. Look, I if it's true, and I believe that's probably the case, that the PGA is this all omni whatever organization when it comes to golfers who want to do that as a professional living. It only seems right that there's options so that they will be forced to evolve and grow and be better than. I'm just concerned that the LIV is the place that's making it happen potentially, because there don't seem to be a good group of people supporting the financial aspects of this. And I think it's a shame that these guys feel like this is the only way they can push forward professional golf
For change.
is to join right, is to join an organization that has to literally pay them in blood money, I guess, right? To the tune that is just so insane you can't say no.
Well,
although Tiger Woods said no. Did you see that article?
I did not.
They were going to pay him. They were going to pay him $1 billion to join. And he said, "No, I'm good."
Do you mean to be like the face of?
No, to join.
To be a player, right?
Be a
Yeah,
player.
I mean,
Well, he just made the $1 billion list. He's one of
He
three
did.
athletes that made
Right.
the $1 billion list.
but you could be a $2 billionaire.
Well, 3 Americans, right? I think it's 3 Americans. 'cause,
Yeah, MJ,
you've got-
LeBron, and Woods are now the 3 sports athletes that have broached the $1 billion mark.
from America.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
yeah.
Because you got Oscar De La Hoya, you got Cristiano Ronaldo, you've got Messi, you've got
Yeah.
quite a
I
few
apologize.
others.
Yes. Thank you. Legal says I have to say Americans. So like I said, this is obviously a twofold in terms of the controversy. The PGA's perspective in terms of them banning players for jumping to LIV Golf or Live Golf. I still don't know how you say it.
LIV. It's like
and then LIV.
Or
and then
just pick one. And use that
Okay.
confidence that you have.
LIV Golf.
Drive
That's an
it,
interesting
drive it,
name.
you know?
That's an interesting name.
Arlo White pronounced it LIV Golf.
Gotcha. It's interesting that LIV Golf, that's the name, considering it's backed by a company or a fund
Yeah, the
that
irony.
has yeah. I mean,
That
come
takes
on.
lives.
Look, let's be honest here.
Live and let live.
The
That's
the,
it.
the PGA
Unless you're homosexual or
is
disagree with us.
backed. They're backed by a bunch of corporations, right? No doubt about it. I'm not saying to the same extent they're doing anything to the same extent the Saudis are doing, but let's be honest.
so let me ask
These
you this.
corporations are not. They're not clean either.
No.
Would you guys jump ship, or would you have stayed with the PGA?
I would have jumped ship in a heartbeat.
Probably.
I'm going to be honest with you, right? I mean,
I mean, to your question, I guess like I said, I get it. If you're, I mean, the PGA is kind of constructed with a bit of have and have not, haves and have nots. Jesus.
Yes.
And I can see where if you want that fast money and you want to move quicker, I get the appeal, but I think some morals and values were left at the door as part of that. So,
Well, but look, they look at it from a standpoint probably of I'm just a person that plays a sport, right? And I'm simplifying it, right? But I'm not a role model. That's not my job is to get involved in the politics and all that stuff. You know, I go.
You'd be wrong, and I'm sorry. Anybody that holds that platform and that status, you're a role model for somebody. You are.
Well,
I think,
but that's not necessarily by their choice. Just because
it doesn't
somebody
matter if
looks
it's by
up
your
to
choice. You have to accept. You have to accept the position.
Clearly,
you don't have to.
But you don't have to.
Clearly, you don't.
You're right. You're right. I apologize. You don't have to. But if you don't, then
should you, as a good human being?
Right.
But yeah, that's a whole other. I mean, that's a whole other discussion we could have.
It's a
We
whole
have it
nother
here right now,
debate.
right? But
it is.
You know, if you're looking at it just from, you know, and that's why I say there's a lot to unpack here, right? If you take the fact that this is being funded by, you know, the private investment fund of Saudi Arabia out of the mix, then, you know, you wonder, does the PGA still have a problem with this? Or is their problem simply they don't want competition?
Yeah, that's it. For
and
me,
I think
that's what it has to be.
Yeah, I think it's both.
I don't think they have any issues. This isn't a moral thing for them, right? They're not saying we're not going to back you guys because you're going to play for a tournament funded by Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
we're going to do it because we don't want competition.
Right.
Well, and you know, I mean, I think the only maybe one of the sports that's comparable in terms of access to tournaments is tennis, maybe. You know, because to get your world ranking and so forth. I mean, I don't necessarily want to go, well, just for the fun of it, let's have a net that's on fire. You know, we'll put.
I'd watch that.
That's what I say. I'd watch that sport.
Just because you're making it more entertaining.
You have people throwing firecrackers out onto the
right.
It's LIV Tennis. We've started a new branch of their.
Yeah, everybody in the audience gets Nerf guns.
We need to hurry up and trademark this. Legal says.
It's just like, to me. I have no dog in this fight. It's just it seems a little bit sullied. It kind of feels a little dirty. Like this is the only the only country that probably would have had the cash,
right,
to just go forth on this, knowing full well that it didn't look good. So I can't connect necessarily with their position relative to the PGA when it just kind of feels a little icky. It's not that I don't understand. There's probably some frustrations with the PGA concept and it just doesn't evolve. It's going to probably want to stay the same way for years. It's not that I don't see that. I just feel like this is maybe not the right answer.
You think there's a better way to do it. This is the right way, just because, again, and I think it's just because it's who it's backed by, right? I mean, if it was backed by North Korea, you'd be okay with it.
Yes,
so
100%.
So if LIV Golf had come out, it wasn't backed by Saudi Arabia. Let's say the payouts, like the winner earns $100,000, right? As opposed to these massive payouts, the winner earns $100,000. Everybody, the last guy, 48th, gets $2,000. If you were truly changing the format of the PGA, if you were truly rising up against the PGA and going, we want things to change, so we're doing this, would those same golfers have jumped ship?
No, because you're not
in an
changing
effort to
anything.
change PGA.
What are you changing at that point? You're taking the status quo and moving it to another place.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is if LIV Golf truly has the impact these golfers are claiming, it's going to kind of reshape golf. It's groundbreaking, it's new, and it is going to pull us away. It's going to force the dictator to have to change his policies or her policies, whatever, whoever's in control of the PGA.
Right.
If the money wasn't there, regardless, would these players still jump ship? Because it's altruistic and they really want to change the game of golf.
Say yes.
You want to say yes, but let's be honest. I don't think it would happen.
I don't think did it for the money, right? Every single one.
I think
that's
look,
my
and
opinion.
I don't think any of them are really hiding that fact, right? I mean, I think a lot of them in the interviews I've watched have been fairly upfront. They haven't come out and specifically said it, but they didn't really beat around the bush about it either, right? It was, look, I got the opportunity to make this amount of money and work, 8 weeks a year. I can guarantee you right now, there isn't a person on this call that wouldn't have jumped at the opportunity to do that.
Well,
was it Vladimir Putin and some secret, not so secret freaking Russian organization funding my wealth?
I think I'd be okay with that if I don't have to work 8 weeks
I
a year.
don't think I would be okay with that.
Well, let's look. This late the inaugural tournament that took place in London, just outside of London, a field of 48. Last place was a man by the name of Andy Ogletree. 3 days worth of work. He earned 120 grand.
And just this, and we can circle back around to this. Where did he finish as far as over par?
Plus 24.
Exactly.
He finished like I would have finished.
I could do that.
Well, and that's my point, right? Is I watched some of the golf, and again, everybody on that tournament, would wear me out on a golf course. I'm not good at all. So I want to preface by saying that, but the consistency and level of play was not what you would see at a PGA tournament. And I know some of that could have been nerves, right? Some of it could have been, people trying to press and do something that they couldn't have done. But, I think there was 8 people out of 48 that finished under par. And I don't know what the standard is for, a regular, PGA tournament, but I feel like it's, probably more than that finished under par. And some of the shots, I'm like, oh, that looks familiar. I've played behind those trees before. Thor's played out of that sand trap before. And look, I get it, right? It happens, but it seemed to be a lot more of that. It was almost like the quality of play wasn't quite what you would have expected. And again, some of that could have been the inaugural game, the inaugural match. A lot of nerves and everything to be worked out. It'll be interesting to see how that continues going forward.
So, and it's funny you bring that up, Matt, because what was occurring to me earlier was you're only playing for 8 weeks and you're not playing the top tier competition in the world, which means you're not getting better at your craft necessarily. You may actually even be getting worse.
But again, I don't think that's the goal for a lot of the, I think for some of these people, yes, they're looking at this as a stepping stone to the next level, right? But you're
okay.
Dustin Johnson,
so what's the next level? Is the next level the PGA? Because if you're an American,
not anymore.
Right? That's my point. So
Yeah.
It's not like that can be a stepping stone to something because.
Well, it could also be that, look, I'm not good enough to make it on the PGA, but, they need to fill out the field and I'm good enough to make it here. So, here's a way to make a living.
Yeah.
But if you look at some of the guys like, Carl Schwartz, Schwartzel, Phil Mickelson, they're looking at this. They're not trying to get better, right? They're trying to maintain and ride off into the sunset. Yeah, I mean, that's the unfortunate reality of it.
And I think all of that is kind of why I don't connect with this. It's backed with some sketchy money. It's the people that kind of have an axe to grind or just want to cash out quick. And I just if it weren't artificially held up by money that doesn't really make sense for the market, I don't think. Yeah. I just don't know how it's sustainable.
Right. Just to put it in perspective, as I mentioned, Andy Ogletree finished 48th. He was plus 24, earned 120 grand. The largest payout in the PGA, as I mentioned, was the Players' Championship. The individual that finished 48th in that competition was Adam Long. He was -1 for the weekend, so under par, and only earned $57,000.
So theoretically, you had at minimum 48 people that finished under par in that tournament.
Yes. Now,
and you had 9 people finish under par in the first tournament for LIV Golf.
Right. And if you look at who finished last in the Players' Championship, that was Lee Hodges. He was +9 and he earned $41,000. Now people will go, 41,000 for 4 days worth of work. That's 10 grand a day.
Yeah, but then half of that's the taxes. You got to pay your caddy.
You got to pay all the people, your hotel stay. That's one of the things about the PGA. You pay
transportation,
your stay, everything.
Well, and now you bring up a great point here, right? And this is something else we haven't touched on: sponsorship. Obviously, right. Phil Mickelson lost every sponsor he had. Now, obviously he, ran his mouth a little bit further than he probably should have. Some of the other guys have been a little bit smarter about kind of deflecting some of the questions around the source of the money and everything. But, you looked at a lot of the guys, this weekend, they're still wearing their TaylorMade gear, their Adidas gear,
Right.
So clearly, these big companies don't have a problem with it just yet. Now that, could that change down the line? Sure, maybe, but it looks like they're, looking at it as an opportunity to expand their brand, to people that maybe haven't watched PGA tours yet, and, get people involved in golf and sell more product, which
Right.
at the end of the day is their job.
And again, I think that's because those companies have deals with the player, notwithstanding the PGA issue. Those are endorsement deals strictly with the player, no matter where that player is playing. Like if Tiger were to go, Nike would go with him because Nike they deal with Tiger.
But you're saying that, he's going to and I'm not saying you in particular, but on a broader scale, he's going to play in a tournament that's backed by sketchy money. You would think then as a big company, you'd say, well, we're not going to support you if you're going to do that, because that doesn't fall into our values.
Well, that makes sense. And I understand
So
that.
if you're going to roast the guys for going, the athletes for going and doing it, you got to hold the companies accountable too.
But I guess
you don't have to.
I don't know how it's
should.
sustainable. Who's the audience?
Yeah.
I keep coming back to who's the audience for this. The diehard people don't want to watch shit golf.
Me
and the average Joe.
I'm watching guys play
to the TV. So
just about as good as me.
Yeah,
I don't know what that audience is yet, right? And look, obviously, I'm sure it'll be hard to tell because their numbers will probably be high this weekend because it was the inaugural event.
New.
Everybody wants to look and see what it's gonna look like. And look, I know I read some articles that didn't go off without its little flaws. They had some issues with the broadcasting, some things that went on behind the scenes. Apparently, I guess the guy writing the biography, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, Thor. You mentioned it a minute ago for Phil Mickelson, was kindly escorted out of one of the press conferences by, as he put it, a couple dudes with no necks.
Because he was asking some questions.
Because he was asking some questions, and there was another reporter that was removed, gently, shall we say it? He wasn't, he didn't get his ass kicked, but he was removed for asking questions. So clearly, obviously, some stuff already that you can look at and go, I don't know, this doesn't seem to all add up yet, outside of just the backing of the money,
right? And I know a lot of golfers are deferring to the, when they are approached with, the investment fund backs the Saudi government. They've obviously been involved in atrocities. How can you play for someone like that? And a lot of them are going, I play golf. Mac, as you said, it's not that they're not a role model, but they're like, I play golf. I focus on golf. I'm not worried about all of that extraneous shit. But
it's a human being, like Grinch said. I think you have to, right, to some extent. You can't, because you're maybe not endorsing it directly, but you're not denouncing it, which is just as bad.
Yeah. I mean, if me as the viewer, it's one of those, like, I don't let somebody off the hook because they just choose to abstain from an opinion on something, like this. It's like, well, you voted with your feet. You did. Right. And it's not that I can't understand some aspects of that. It's just, there's probably going to be some consequences, and you may not like the future of this. Like, it's lucrative in the short term,
but the long term?
It may go down in flames after 1 year.
And I think that's what you're probably going to end up seeing happen here, right?
The XFL.
It's just the unfortunate reality is that these guys are going to end up getting banned from the PGA. This thing folds up after a year. And now what do these guys do? They come back with their head, between their tail and
their self-licking ice cream cone, their head between their legs.
Or, have they made enough money that they can just cash out?
Yes. We all knew what he meant. You're right, Mac. I think that would be the case. If this folded, they are going to come back with their tail between their legs going, we're sorry. We say our Hail Marys. Can we come back? And the PGA, at that point, the PGA is going to have all the power, which is something they need to consider.
Thing, right?
It is. It's something you have to consider.
You think the PGA let them back in?
The problem is, if this goes on a year or two, like, does a DJ who's 15th now, is he relevant in 2 years? And like,
well, that's it, right? Grinch's point, if you're playing against guys that aren't as good as you, you're going to start playing down to their level,
right? And
you're only playing 8 times a year. You're going to lose some of that edge,
right? I how do you not? That's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't, you have to play to get better or maintain. And if you're not playing, you're not going to get better.
Yeah. My grandfather was a musician, played jazz guitar for years. And one of the things he always said was when you play music, if you miss a day, you'll notice it. You hear it. Mm-hmm. If you miss a week, everybody else knows it. And it's just like you said, Mac, you're going to play down to your competition. Haas, you have said it multiple times in the almost 2 years we've been doing this, that, your dad said you don't get better by playing lesser competition. You got to play better people to get better. And if you're not, then now
it doesn't challenge you.
Right. The Andy Ogletrees of the LIV competition, they're playing against a Dustin Johnson. Andy's going to get better. Dustin's not. I mean, I think that's just if you're playing up against a Dustin Johnson or whatever, I think he's going to get better by default. He finished 48th. He can't get worse. Right. So
no, I mean, I've played with you, so and vice versa. So I mean,
do we want to check our scorecards?
I have them all. Could get worse.
I'm a pack rat. I keep all of our scorecards. If you really want to go through that, do they allow them to come back? I think the PGA will acquiesce and allow them to come back. But Haas, there will be caveats. You want to come back?
That's right.
I figured that was coming. Yeah.
And they're going to hold all the cards at that point.
Better kiss the ring.
Right.
Put your head between your tail and come on back.
Yeah.
Or
I'm just going to lean into that and keep saying it, and it'll be a real thing then.
It's the other option. The PGA does shift their way of thinking. They change their approach, and the players come back naturally, going, okay, I will play for them. Because now it's not a dictatorship. They've given us more control, given us more access.
Well, but I think on the flip side, though, you still have to look at what they're doing from a fan perspective, right? You as the PGA, you have to look at that and say, okay, well, how do we bring in that next generation of golfer, right? We have to evolve and become more socially, get more involved in social media, and they probably are to some extent already, but it can't be the stuffy tournaments of yesteryear.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying bring out DJ Khaled, but
no, it needs to be the Happy Gilmore approach.
Right.
Golf.
I mean, I think if you had like a week, end or long weekend of golf, like you could work in a fun shorter tournament, that's more kind of energetic and so forth, which caters to one aspect of an audience, and then you still got your traditional, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that want to see really high quality golf. I'm not necessarily one of them.
Well, but I think you can see high quality golf and still make it a fun event, right?
I think so.
Yeah, this is, I mean, to me, I don't know. It's just one of those, I think they swung and missed, and it's not going to really it's not going to play out until, however many months down the road.
Well, here's the other.
If you take a swing, it was, kind of like the saying is like, if you're going for the king, you better not miss, right?
Or you don't come back from that.
Yeah.
Mac, it's interesting because you mentioned at the beginning of this how this is being televised through social media, YouTube. I'm assuming YouTube TV or whatever they're doing.
No, it's actually not even part of YouTube TV. It's just a regular YouTube channel that you can subscribe to, just like a Spirited Debates YouTube channel.
There you go. The interesting part is the PGA has TV deals, CBS, ESPN, like they are showcased across multiple channels,
right?
The Golf Channel and so forth. So they've got that money coming in because of those TV deals. Is LIV sustainable if they aren't securing TV deals to be able to showcase this?
And they are because they have unlimited pockets from the
unlimited.
The private investment.
All resources are finite.
But do they want to do
they'll
that?
Keep stealing money and killing people.
But do they want to do that? The hope is that this is popular and they can supplant that funding through other sources, so they aren't continuing to lay it out.
Well, that brings me to a question. What do you think their motive is to even be doing this?
I think it's like Max said,
Saudi Arabians,
lipstick on a pig. They are trying to reevaluate or have the world readjust their way of looking at Saudi Arabia. I think that's why they're doing it.
Right. And we briefly touched on that.
Holding a golf organization, they don't really think that's a plausible thing that will happen, do they?
Well, how does China hosting the Olympics, trying to put a good face on, the country, I mean, like I said, this is not the first time
Germany did it in the 30s. Russia did it at Sochi. China's done it. So yeah, countries have used sports as a way to elevate themselves and change the perspective.
Better. But everybody, but in all of those cases prior, everybody pretty much saw through it and still saw that, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, you're having the Olympics, but you're still, moving people to gas chambers, right? Yeah. I mean, that doesn't change.
And that's why I would prefer a DJ come out and go, I'm doing it for the money. No other reason. I'm just doing it because the payout's phenomenal. I have to work one less day a week. It's 3 days instead of 4. I like Mac, you said I work 8 days a week or eight weekends a year. That's a no-brainer for me, right? As opposed to, I'm doing it to elevate the game of golf. I'm doing it for this altruistic reason. I'm doing it for and it's like, you're doing it for the money.
I think to some extent they believe that's one of the reasons they're doing it, right? Because if they didn't, then I don't know that they would necessarily have made the jump. But yes, the primary motive is money, without a doubt. And like I said, I think many of them have kind of, without saying it exactly that way, have kind of
leaned into it.
Yeah.
I saw an article. I was trying to find it at the. Oh my God, what did I do with it? At the opening of the tournament. I can't remember what the song was. Somebody was playing a song on the loudspeaker about money. God bless it. What was the song?
It's all about the Benjamins.
I mean, it was something like that, right? And it was like, it was their way of saying the only reason people are doing this is because of the money. And I guess the tour itself actually picked up the intro to the song, and now they're using it. And I will find the song, but I was just like, well, that's funny as hell. Somebody did it thinking, we're going to showcase the fact that you all are just shallow ass individuals.
They just leaned into it.
And they leaned into it.
Yeah.
Well, because they know what they're doing too, right? Let's be honest. I don't think they're not looking at this going, oh, we're going to change the world. That may be a byproduct of it, but we're doing this for money.
Right. So Mac, you watched a couple, I don't know, holes, rounds, whatever you did.
Yeah. How was it? Like I said, I think the quality of golf was not there.
Okay.
And I'm not an avid, I'm not a person that avidly watches, PGA events either. I'll turn on the Masters, the British Open, some of the majors and watch them. But yeah, I watched it, and, like we talked about, you had a small number of people finish even over par or under par. And a lot of bad shots. From people that, like we've talked about that, are big names, Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson. You looked at them and you're like, okay, I expect 1 or 2 bad shots, but you've made, quite a few of them today. And again, some of that could have been nerves, but if that continues, then yeah, I mean, if you have low quality of play, you have all the, the issues surrounding it as far as, how it's being funded and everything. I don't see how it's sustainable long term. You get a year out of it, maybe, and it becomes the next, XFL or, arena football or any other upstart that has tried to take on the big boys, and it just unfortunately falters by the wayside. And I don't know that that's a good thing. I mean, I think challenging the establishment can be good if it brings about change.
Right.
I just don't know that this will do that.
I'm so good, just to toot my own horn. It was the OJ's 1973 hit For the Love of Money, and it was blared over loudspeakers. Money, 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 money. The song, of course, was written not as an ode to wealth, but as a warning about the perils of doing anything for the almighty dollar. By week's end, though, the original intent of the song felt essentially meaningless. Only the opening riff mattered. LIV Golf was now using it as a boast, one that will likely serve as a siren call to the best golfers in the world.
So classless.
So unfortunately didn't have the impact they had hoped.
Yeah. It's tacky.
Yeah. So clearly Grinch is not a fan, will not be watching, but you don't really watch golf anyway, and that's okay. That's why I said at the outset, three of the four of us, we have played, enjoy playing, even if we're shooting 105, 110, it is what it is. 130. Yeah. And again, Andy Ogletree, I just want to say,
are you putting all the way to the hole? You can use a driver.
I got two.
You should definitely not talk shit until you get out and play. I'm just gonna say that right now. Andy Ogletree was plus 24 for the weekend, but that's 3 days worth of golf, which means he was only plus 8 each day on average. I don't shoot plus 8 in any fucking game. So he's still doing better than me, Mac. I just wanted to point that out. That plus 24 sounds like a lot, but that's plus 24 over 3 days.
Yeah, but it's still in the grand scheme of, if you look at, PGA golf.
Shit-tastic.
Yeah.
And he still earned 120 grand.
Because let's be honest, that's all this guy. I could shoot plus 8 if all I did every day was, practice playing golf, working out to play golf, and playing golf.
Man, Mac, you'd make 120 grand a weekend.
I know.
Times eight, even if you finish last.
And as we've clearly already established, I have no problem, with the money grab. So, Greg Norman, if you're listening, ring me
Big
up.
Mac is
we'll
ready.
Make this happen.
That's right.
I can be your next John Daly.
That's it.
I would love to see John Daly get the call.
Of course.
I just, would love to see him out on the tour again.
He'd be swinging a golf club with a cigar in his fucking mouth and a bottle of
because
wild turkey in his hand.
He would be the guy that would simply say, I'm fucking doing it for the money.
That's right.
I'm opening my own Hooters.
Look, at the end of the day, it was interesting, looking at this and seeing how it kind of unfolded and the different facets of it. Again, from the PGA Tour banning people, players rescinding their PGA Tour memberships in favor of going to play, what it meant that it was backed by the Public Investment Fund in Saudi Arabia and the Saudi Arabian government, and all of the issues kind of surrounding it, who jumped ship, who didn't, and why. And ultimately, we all, I think, seem to believe, I think we're in agreement that it was for the money. And it'd be interesting to see how this plays out over the next 7 events. Is this sustainable? Will this be back next year? Who knows? And if it doesn't work out, how do the players ultimately reconcile that fact? And do they come back crawling to the PGA going, can we come back? And does the PGA go, no, you made your choice. You made your bed. You're going to fucking lie in it.
No, I think no on that, right? Because I think just like anybody else, the PGA Tour is looking to make money. So if these guys can continue to be a draw for them, that's the key.
They'll use them.
They're and that's why these guys are independent contractors. They're using these people to promote their product. As long as they're bringing something to the PGA, they'll welcome them back. If they're not, then yeah, you won't see them welcome them back.
No.
Yeah, I seriously wonder if Mickelson will be back. If they'll let him back.
No, Phil Mickelson has burnt every bridge he has with the PGA at this point. From everything I've read, he will never play golf there again. You have some other folks, like you said, like the Dustin Johnsons of the world and some of the other guys that have kind of jumped ship that may have the opportunity to go back, should this all fold. But I do not think he'll, and I don't know that he would want to, honestly. I like I said, I think he's kind of in the twilight of his career, and
he's just doing this on the back end to maximize his money.
Yeah, to make some money and sail off into retirement.
Yeah. Look, I totally lost my train of thought. Fuck.
You just macked that shit.
God damn, I did. Holy shit. That just seemed weird because I was like, I've got it. I don't have it.
Yeah. Welcome to every day of my life, man.
Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson. Oh, that's what it was. I think it's interesting that DJ resigned his membership. And I think a lot of these players thought the PGA ain't going to do shit. I'm going to go and play, and the PGA Tour is not going to do a goddamn thing. And then the PGA Tour banned them, where DJ was like, I'm resigning it because I don't want to deal with any legal issues. I don't want to have any problems.
Right. And that's actually that's funny you bring that up, because I was thinking, what was the motivation of doing that? The motivation of resigning it means you didn't get banned,
right?
Which means you could reapply, technically, I would think, under the bylaws.
I would think so. No, I haven't checked deeply enough to know.
You control your own narrative, right?
Right. That too.
And that's the big thing from a PR standpoint.
Right. But I think the 17 members that got banned made a calculated decision that the PGA Tour were going to be too much of a pussy to ban them, name recognition or whatever, and they were wrong.
Right.
So, yeah, I think DJ he may, obviously, from his perspective, made a more intelligent decision going, I'm walking away on my terms.
At least legally speaking, right? Because they didn't, quote unquote, ban him, which means if he wants to reapply, they have no reason not to give him membership.
Exactly.
Because if he's resigned, think about this. As a contractor, if he's resigned, that means they no longer get to dictate to him what he does with his employment, right? So if he goes to go back and they don't reinstate him, that's a lawsuit right there.
But they could still ban him even if he resigned, right? I mean,
but he hasn't broken any laws.
Yeah,
He resigned his membership before he went and did it.
It's like if you and I have a contract, right? And I have a contract only to work for you. If I resign and terminate that agreement, I'm not free to do whatever the fuck I want.
The non-compete becomes irrelevant.
Right. Becomes moot.
Right. But I'm going to, in the back of my mind, say, fuck you. I know what you did. You tried to do it the right way, but I know what you did. So you're not coming back.
But as Haas says, from a legal standpoint, though.
Don't care. You know.
Right. Haas is saying from a legal standpoint, if they do that, he can bring a lawsuit.
Why?
It's
an at-will.
PGA,
depends on,
you don't have a right to employ membership.
No, they can deny his membership,
but you have a right to make a living, right?
Yeah, and that's fine. Just not back with us.
Go join LIV Golf.
Here's my point. Do you think the PGA wants to put up with that kind of? Do you think they want to shell out money for that lawsuit and all the bad PR that's going to go along with that?
I bet
they do.
I think if they're going to monkey stomp on this thing to make sure everybody knows where things stand, yes,
they're going to do it right to the end.
So that next time the next Upstart tournament, everybody looks at it and goes, "Well, I'm not going to piss off Big Daddy."
Right.
It's like this is a one-way road.
Yeah, because ultimately those 17 players that got banned and Dustin Johnson who resigned, like you said, if this folds in a year, what do? How do they earn their living? What do they go to those long drive competitions? I mean, what are they doing in terms of earning finances or earning money? Phil may be on the end of his career. Dustin Johnson's not.
Right.
And he's going,
I got both guaranteed $200 million, right?
Yeah, they did get a what they call the signing bonus, right? So outside of any earnings they make playing golf, they both got. I don't know, Haas. I'll go with that $200 million.
Who do they pay?
What the actual number was?
Do they pay taxes on that?
They have
because it's registered. It's registered with Saudi Arabia, right?
It depends on.
It's here's my.
That's a good question.
Yeah, here's my thinking. Was that? I mean, are they netting 200?
I'd quit now.
That's what I'm saying. Like, okay, does it even fucking matter?
Well, for that amount of money, I mean, that's why I say, like, you get a couple people who knew they bought one-way tickets.
Right.
And the value, the amount of money they're getting, they can live off that the remainder of their days.
Even if
regardless of how this works
some of these other cats probably are not in that position yet. They made the move. And like I said, it's a flash in the pan, fairly lucrative. And if they, invest or whatever wisely, but otherwise, I mean, I would imagine they're probably going to be dead. So P&G'd from the PGA.
Well, and here's a good question I have is you probably have some folks that lower names that nobody knows about from some of the other tours, like the Japanese tour and stuff, that are playing in this. Can they up their game and their worth and still go apply at the PGA? Because maybe they were never a member of the PGA. So they didn't resign, they didn't get banned,
right?
But they played in LIV Golf, and so that'll be the telling part, right? Is if some of those folks after this, if this does fold, they apply to the PGA and the PGA denies them, then you will know it was just it was a power play by the PGA,
right?
They're going to say anybody that was involved in this, fuck you, because we didn't want the upstart league.
Right. So an Andy Ogletree, if he decides to go play for the PGA next year and they go, nope.
Right. What happens this time? What happens next year, whatever that is, next season for LIV Golf, if they decide to double down and they go out and they start grabbing all the talent?
Yeah. What if they all end up jumping ship and the PGA Tour has like 6 people and the PGA Tour is going, oh shit, we underestimated that.
Yeah.
Saucy.
And it could happen. They clearly have the money to do it. It seems like.
Yeah, they start up, and depending on the popularity.
You're talking about an organization that has less money supposedly in their coffers for operations and payroll and all that than than one of these golfers was paid as a sign-on bonus.
Right.
So don't you think at some point somewhere somebody at the PGA is shaking in their boots a little bit, going, "Oh shit"?
Well, but that was the whole point of this, right? Was to create free agency in golf. Right. Because before there was not, it was it, you played at the PGA. That was pretty much it. Now you have other places to go play and clearly make more money, so you can up your value just like you can in football, baseball, any other sport. You have that ability to do now in golf.
It'll be an interesting
Yeah.
way that this whole thing unfolds.
I'm intrigued to see how it plays out.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah,
all
I'd
right.
like to talk about it a little bit more though, and see if we can actually finally put Grinch to sleep though.
He's
This is
trying.
the quietest he's been, right? Mac, I gotta say, brother, you really brought your A game today. I know you're like, I don't ever bring my A game. You really did.
Do I
And
sound like
appreciate
that? I may have today.
Yes.
You sound like that when you don't bring your A game.
That's it.
Oh,
But
wow.
today, A game. That's it. All right, gentlemen. So you know what? We didn't solve any problems, but we weren't trying to. It's not our problem to solve here. We just wanted to debate it, talk about it, and inform our listening constituency about the state of golf in the world. So I appreciate y'all being here. Grinch, as quiet as you were, we always appreciate you being here. Thank you. You're not into it. You're not invested. You don't
Sorry.
care. You ain't
You're
watching
welcome
it.
for my service.
No, we appreciate it. So we will leave it there.
It's great to be serviced by you.
That's it.
Every time.
Feel free to check out all of our episodes at aspiriteddebate.com. You can all the drinks that we have here. Obviously, my delicious bourbon milk punch, the painkiller, as he just said,
You sound like
Rob
what's
Halford.
the dude from
He's already said it.
the dude from
He's
the
going to
Dr.
diminish.
Pepper commercials.
Oh,
The sweet one.
little sweet.
Little sweet.
Yeah, little sweet. Who was actually on American Idol. Just want to put that out there. I forgot what I was saying. Yes, aspiriteddebate.com. Check out all of our drinks. Obviously, you can check out all of our episodes in the vault. Haas, I see you laughing as you plow through your, well, it looks like popcorn. I don't even know if it is. Yes, so hit us up there. You can drop us a line, a topic you'd like us to debate, a drink you'd like us to try. Obviously, you can check us out at the Four Horsemen, the Cuatro, and what is it?
Jinetes.
The Cuatro Jinetes, the Four Horsemen at aspiriteddebate.com. Drop us a line there, a drink you'd like us to try, topic you'd like us to debate. We'd love to have you on the show if that's possible, if we can do it. Let you come in and use our platform to talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. If nothing else, drop us a line and just ask us a question that you'd like us to answer. We'd love to do that too. Gentlemen, as always, thank you for being here. Loved it as always. Mac, thank you for bringing your A game. I expect that every time now. That level of dedication,
New standard.
right? You've just said it. That's a bar. It's up here.
We're in trouble then.
That's a bar up there, and I expect you to hit it. It's like high jump. I think you can do it. Get a good
I
running
can
start.
promise you I can't high jump.
Plow right through the bar. So as always, gentlemen, love doing it week in and week out. And we will do it again next week. Thank you so much, and I will talk to y'all later. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the A Spirited Debate podcast series or any affiliated podcast are solely those of the hosts or guests involved and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the host or guests may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity, unless explicitly stated. While guests are invited to listen, listeners acknowledge that they are not being provided professional advice for the podcast or its guests. The content within the parameters of A Spirited Debate podcast series or any affiliated podcast are for entertainment and educational purposes only. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual.